Hello and welcome to the Shack News Chattycast, the podcast that's everybody's second banana. I'm one of your hosts, Steve Watts. Ryan?
Brian's your other host.
Brian, you've gone mute.
What
What is happening? I was hearing
he
him
was
fine
very deep in thought
until
there.
about 30 seconds ago. All right. Well, eventually we hear
There he
Brian's
is.
voice.
He's back.
Brian, would you like to introduce yourself? What is happening?
Everything was working great until we started the show.
As soon as we go live, it all just falls apart. Okay. Brian, jiggle the cord.
Yes.
Wow. All right. Well, this got
I put
weird.
pants on for this.
I don't know why you had to. We only really see your shoulders and up.
That's a good point.
While Brian figures out his technical difficulties, every week we pick a big topic posted in the Shack News Chatty, and then we talk about it in detail with your comments fueling the discussion, hence Chattycast. Today's guest, the stalwart sidekick to Doom guy, Asif Khan.
That's one Doom Space Marine.
So we didn't really give Doom its full Doom. Brian is
Should I do the audible thing?
I'm hearing nothing. Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Hundreds of thousands of books to choose from. I don't know the full spiel.
Hundreds of thousands of books from how to create internet
ranging all kinds of genres. This is going to be the sloppiest show we've ever done.
Cooking books. And just go to
I'm tempted to restart once Brian
audibletrial.com/chattycast.
gets back and just cut around it.
It might be time for a Chattycast do-over.
Yeah, it might be.
Yeah,
That means people who watch the video get like special insight to the process of like what it will actually take for us to start over.
No, seriously. Go to audibletrial.com/chattycast. That's where you get a free download code or something, and you could read or have things read to you, I believe is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brian.
Yes.
Are you there?
Yeah.
Okay.
I heard you say something.
I don't know. I'm pretty sure you did, but anyway. Do I
Okay.
get the actual copy, or are we good?
No, we're just gonna start over.
Okay.
The video
Yes,
the video viewers will get a special deleted scene of us goofing around and having no idea what to do. All right.
Of me clapping with no sound. Yeah.
Let's start this again. And I don't mind coughing like that because this is all going to be cut. All right. Hello and welcome to the Shack News Chattycast, the podcast that's everybody's second banana. I'm one of your hosts, Steve Watts.
I'm your other host, Brian Carr. Today's Chattycast, Steve, brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at www.audibletrial.com/chattycast. And you know how to spell that.
Yep, just like the podcast that you're subscribed to right now. So every week we pick a big topic and post about it in the Shack News Chatty, and then we talk about it in detail with your comments, hence Chattycast. Today's guest, the stalwart sidekick to Doom guy, Asif Khan.
Hello.
Welcome back, Asif. You wrest
Thanks.
control from Cass every once in a while. That opening was very Doom flavored, even though that's not actually our big topic this week. But I feel like we just have to jump into Doom because last week we recorded before Doom had come out, and we knew only that they were not sending review copies, which is usually like a real bad sign. So in the week hence, we have found out that Doom is actually like pretty great. So obviously we've all been playing it, and we want to talk about that. It's sort of our stealth second topic before we get to our actual big topic. But guys, let's talk about some Doom.
Yeah. What do you want to know?
It's pretty doomy, right? Here's the thing.
It's kind of quaky, too.
It's very quick.
The number of times I have like pressed the chainsaw button while trying to reload is kind of sad. Like even after playing it for hours, I'll be like, oh, okay, reload. Nope, broke up my chainsaw. Whoops. Because it is aggressively old school. both in that it is aggressive, be aggressive, and also that it's there's no reloads. There's a dedicated chainsaw button. It
Frankly, I
is
think more games need a dedicated chainsaw button. That's the
yeah.
thing I think that this should be the big takeaway from Doom
I
is
think
every
I
game
think
with a
that really
dedicated
speaks to
chainsaw button.
how true it is to the name, where they're like, well, we have more buttons now. What can we do with them? How about chainsaw? Um, but yeah, it's a weird melding of this very old school, fast moving sensibility, where when you're hurt, you don't duck behind cover or anything like that. You just you continue to kill things. Um,
Hmm.
and the central mechanic of get something close to death and then go in for a melee kill and doing that to basically everything all the time, like basically, like kind of encourages you and requires you to be close to the action at all times. So it's this really fascinating gameplay loop that they've created that rewards and encourages aggression in a way that most games do not. Most modern shooters do not. Um, yeah. So thoughts?
Yeah, I love the glory kill. It's the best thing ever.
I mean,
I
for me, they haven't gotten old. It seemed like they might when we saw that video. It also seems like they sped them up a little bit since they showed it off at E3 last year. Um, but I'm probably almost halfway through, and I haven't gotten sick of seeing them or anything because they just happen so fast. It's just like, book, crack the neck, keep going.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like you run into a room, you shoot one guy, you break his neck, you shoot another guy, you stomp on his face. It's like you kill like 10 dudes in half a minute. Feels
Hmm.
awesome. The other thing I think is they did really well is all the Dooms have really done a great job with enemy spawn points and how you're almost always being flanked from different angles. Doom really went back to that. It feels much less like a rail shooter than Doom 3 did, or many of the other games that are out, like COD and all that stuff.
Hmm.
Uh, I think they nailed that feeling that the original Doom 1 and 2 had when it came to
This
level design, where
this is
you had to
more. This feels
run
more
to one side of the level.
like little arenas. Like it's
Hmm.
it's almost
Mhm.
Halo-like, and that sounds like a weird comparison, but it
It's
kind of reminds me of Halo in that you're going through these corridors and doing like sort of light platforming, and then all of a sudden there's an arena and it's a combat puzzle. You have to figure out your way around this very fast-moving combat puzzle, and then things settle and everything's dead, and then you move on. Um, the most recent one that I went into was the Argent Tower. There's
Mhm.
one particularly memorable arena in that stage. I mean, there's a lot in every stage, but in that stage, there's one that stands out, I think, above the rest, and it's the one where you first see the big, fat dudes, the big fat demons that have the huge bellies. Um,
Yes.
yes, and I think that the word that comes to mind for this game in general is like exhilarating, and that's
Hmm.
that's the word that came to mind during that particular arena battle because it was so fast and frenetic. Just like I killed one of those things with my chainsaw, and then I turn around and there's like three more of them, and I was like,
Hmm.
"Holy shit!" So I died, and then I restarted, and I knew not to waste my chainsaw right away. Um, and that time I just like kind of took everything out, and then there was one guy left, and I was extremely low on health, and it was one of those big guys. And that's when I remembered I had my chainsaw, and I was like, "Oh, thank God!" And I just like equipped it real quick, jumped, chainsawed him, and then I was done. So it was like that kind of pressure isn't something you
Hmm.
feel in a lot of modern shooters.
No, it's very very fast paced. I think that's the other really exciting thing about it is that this because the last campaign I played all the way through was for a shooter was Call of Duty, and this is just such a night and day difference. I don't know if it's ever possible to go back now because this to me is more like it took what was good about the old games and brought in a lot of new mechanics that make more sense. But the way that they put it together is really, really gratifying. Like there was a part where I did a glory kill where I took a demon's leg and smashed his own head with his own foot. Like that's pretty good. And then I got the berserk power up, which is always one of my favorite things from the original game, where you just like punch dudes into pieces. And like I
Yeah.
literally
It's so
grabbed
good.
I grabbed a demon's head from the top and ripped it like like I was opening a bag of potato chips, just
So
Yep.
good.
Like
I love
that,
This is one.
this game proves to me that for all my posturing about academics and representation, that sort of thing, sometimes I just want to be a dirtbag, and I just want to play
I mean,
a super violent video.
it's like it's not taking itself too serious. Like if it
No,
were
not
like
at all.
dark and
Thankfully.
depressing and doing all that stuff, it'd be like I feel kind of uncomfortable with this. I know they're demons, but come on. Like,
Yeah.
but
No.
it's very tongue in cheek and very like kind of
It's
cute
got
about
a
the violence,
sense of
you know?
humor about it,
Like
which is so
I don't
welcome.
know if this is the glory kill that you were referencing, but there was one that I saw. The only one that actually like made me cringe a little. He sort of like twisted a demon's leg the wrong way and then shoved it into its face.
That might be the one, yeah.
Yeah. So that looked like actually painful, but it's like that's kind of like funny violence. Like,
Yeah, it's so stupid. It's so stupid. It's
extremely
amazing.
over the top. Yeah.
Yeah, Brian, I picked up that the Berserk power up last night, and I was just punching the crap out of everybody. And
It's amazing.
I did that same glory kill, and I was giggling so loudly. Like I was on TeamSpeak with some other people. They're like, "What the hell are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, I didn't want to spoil it because none of them had Doom yet." But I was like, "Oh man, I just ripped this dude's face in half." And like, you know, original Doom and Doom 2. Graphically, yeah, now it's pretty terrible. But back in the day, that was some of the goriest stuff you could do. It was like a shotgun kill to an imp and having all the guts explode and all of its 16-bit glory. They've just like they thought about how we felt then and tried to recreate that feeling now with amazing graphics.
It's
and I think that's
modernized like
what
really smartly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you said it doesn't take itself too seriously. I'm gonna make a weird comparison. It kind of reminds me of The Force Awakens in that sense, where it was like Force
The
Awakens
Force
is like,
Unleashed.
yeah, we're making another.
Or the movie.
No,
Okay.
I'm talking about the movie.
Okay, sorry.
I'm saying like, versus New Hope, right? So it's like they borrowed so much from New Hope, and they kind of winked at you the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Doom's doing the same thing with Doom 1 and 2. Like there's this. I saw one level in David's review where it's straight up out of Doom 2. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the exact level. And I'm like, and it's an iconic level. So it just, those are the things where I'm like, yes, you understand me. When it comes to the ultra violence, this is something that's come up a couple of weeks ago when it comes to Battlefield 1. Like, are we going too far with violence in gaming? We've always gone too far with violence in gaming. It's just that graphics have finally caught up to the point where you're like, ooh, that's actually kind of feels real. I always go back to GTA 5, and I can't remember which Modern Warfare, I think it was 2. But GTA 5, where you're doing the torture scene with Trevor, spoiler alert, and COD when you're walking through that airport as a Russian soldier or terrorist, whatever. Those two things I thought crossed the line more than just a game addressing a period of violence.
Yeah, I mean, because it's all about context, right? Like this isn't hatred; it's Doom. Like you're killing demons in comically over the top ways.
And that's the whole thing. Is like, how can you really be offended by ripping a demon's face in half? They're pure evil.
They're demons.
You're
Come on.
doing God's work. You know what I mean? So like, I
Literally,
that's
you're
the
literally
loophole.
doing God's work.
I think that's the loophole that Doom has always had. And like, I remember parents being like, you remember Heretic and Hexen and Doom? All these games were very satanic. And this still, they're like, hey, you're basically dealing with demons from hell. It's this, I think it's a loophole that gets them like a huge license to just be insanely violent. And I welcome it because, holy cow, like Brian said at the beginning of the show.
I mean,
every
along
game
those
needs a
lines, I like
chainsaw, right?
the way it's presented to you. There's not much story in Doom. Let's be honest. It's basically the same story from the actual first Doom, right? Like they're tapping hell for this alternative.
I think this does take place after. I don't know if it takes place after Doom 3, but it's definitely later in the series.
But it's like
it also doesn't really matter.
It's a reboot that also kind of borrows from the original story. But my point is like the Doom guy, your guy who's just Doom guy. Like he's not like a complex character. Like he's like he is like a blunt instrument that you point at demons, and like they make no bones about that. Like from the beginning, when they wake you up, it's like, hey, go fuck up some demons, and you just start doing it.
All right. Well, the
And
thing
then
that
when they actually
even
try to
the
give him
mission
instructions
text
that
too.
involve nuance, like, hey, can you carefully do this? He's like, nope, I'm just going to smash it.
Yep.
It's like, all right, I guess that's how you do things. Brian,
Well,
what were
even
you
in the
saying?
mission text, it's really funny because like there's one mission I played where it's like so and so has offered all the help he can, but all you really need is a lot of ammo and a bunch of dead demons or something. It was like again just so aggressively kind of they knew exactly what they were doing when they made this game, and
Mhm.
I'm so glad they didn't try to make this. There was at one point apparently in the development of the game they're going to go for more of a serious kind of grounded take on Doom, and it's like
Yeah, it was
no,
described as like
do
Call of
that.
Duty with demons on Earth, and it's like,
Yeah,
no.
no. And I like how this game actually sort of punishes you, or not necessarily punishes you, but like kind of subtly hints that you can't really play or look at this game like you can other games, right?
Mhm.
The most obvious one being, of course, instead where the reload button would be on most shooters is the chainsaw button, which it tells you exactly what kind of game this is off the bat, which I think is kind of like a nice little design touch. But also just like it almost you don't like because I keep reflexively trying to go to iron sights, right? Because so
Yeah.
many of these games are like built that in my head. In this game, it's like, well, if you do that, you're just going to do some other crazier, like explosive thing, and that's going to be way better anyway. I did get there is actually at one point you get a add-on for the assault rifle that gives you a scope, and it almost
Yeah.
feels like cheating. Like I feel like I've broken the game in some way because now I can hang back and just like headshot monsters.
But you
And
kind of don't
this,
want to. I mean, like that's a good like emergency retreat
sometimes I do,
mechanism.
but yeah.
But like the fun of the game is just like kind of going apeshit in this arena
Hmm.
that they put you in.
I mean, they
Um,
don't take cover, so you can't sit there and wait for a demon to take cover. They're going to come after you, and you
and
can't
the
really
enemy
line up
designs,
your
yeah,
shot.
their mobility is designed around coming after you quickly, like
Hmm.
either leaping to you or there's that one thing that looks sort of like the witch thing in Mass Effect that like
Hmm.
just kind of teleports across a map like immediately. Um, so like there's really no place that you can just hang out and be safe, and there's no reason to anyway because it's not like you regen health or anything.
Yeah. So a
Um,
lot of it's not. I'm going to find a convenient sniping spot. I'm going to find cover. A lot of it's just like I need to not be right here. I need to go somewhere else, and hopefully I can make a stand there for a couple seconds before they take that spot. Like that to
and
me is
what
really really exciting.
we're making this game sound like pretty simplistic, and it is in a way. Like you're shooting demons, like
It's
that's the
not
game.
overly
But like,
complicated.
but there are what like four or five different like upgrade mechanisms,
Hmm.
you know,
It's
and
got
like
a. It,
that sounds incredibly complex. That sounds too
mhm.
complex. If you came to me with a shooter and they were like, oh yeah, there's like five upgrade trees, I'd be like, okay, well that's a stupid decision. But it all makes sense the way they present it here, where you're upgrading individual components in very unique ways. All right,
Yeah.
I'm getting nodding, which plays well on audio.
Well, sure. No, but what
Sorry,
struck me about this is I had heard people kind of making the comparison to something like Metroid Prime, and with like the add-ons and the sort of incentive to go back to places you've already explored and find stuff you couldn't before.
Hmm.
There's some depth and some complexity to it, but this is like I don't know. To me, it's kind of like hard to think about going back to sort of the old model of shooters now. And it's kind of ironic that the new model has now become the old model, but like if the new Call of Duty comes out, when that comes out, like, am I going to have any interest in it? Because Doom is just kind of this whole different thing, and it's like, yeah, I kind of like that better. It's not just about okay, so you have to get like a perfect headshot every time, or you have to be able to like fire fast enough so you don't die immediately. I like a little bit of like give and take and kind of push, and like this to me feels like what I wanted Halo 5 to be. Halo
Hmm.
5 had like this huge identity crisis problem to me. Like it couldn't decide if it wanted to be a cooperative game or a story-based game. Couldn't decide if it wanted to be Call of Duty or if it wanted to be Halo. Doom's just kind of like, yeah, I'm just going to do my own thing over here, and I really, really respect and appreciate that.
Yeah, this is something that David brought up in his review, and he's not here to speak for himself, but I'll try to paraphrase as best I can. But like one of his central points in his review, and part of the reason that we gave it a 9, we were sort of wavering between an 8 and a 9 inside baseball. We were wavering between an 8 and a 9 internally, and he made the argument like this is a thing that I want other shooters to learn from. Like I want other shooters to look at this as an example and say, okay, we can not follow this mold that's sort of been set. We can do different things. Not necessarily even exactly like Doom, but doing your own thing, having the freedom of creativity to do your own thing in the shooter space. And I was like, okay, well that makes it like a landmark game in the way that we usually give nines to. Like usually we reserve that for, this is a defining experience in some way. So that's why it's tied for our highest score of the year so far with Uncharted 4. So yeah, it's forging its own path, and that's refreshing to see.
But granted,
Yeah.
Josh was the one who reviewed Uncharted, so subtract one from whatever Josh said.
Yeah, we'll just whip
No,
Josh.
I'm just kidding.
Uncharted is. I mean,
just kidding.
I've also been playing Uncharted. It is the prettiest game. It's insanely pretty. It's still
gorgeous. I
it's
literally
Uncharted.
sat there.
Yeah.
I sat there in the first or second level, whatever, and I just stared at the ocean for a good 10 minutes because I was like, wow, it's the best looking game I've ever seen.
I
And
saw
it's
a Reddit
amazing
post
because
that was
it's
like,
not on PC.
I saw a Reddit post just browsing Reddit one day that was like, if you can see the cartilage in Nathan's ear if you let light shine through it.
Mm-hmm.
And then like later that day, I got to that same area. It's like up in his attic when he's like looking over his relics of his adventures and stuff. And I like tried that out, and I was like, oh my god, like it's really astounding.
I mean, I'll poke the bear here and say, well, if you like ear cartilage, that's fine, but I like good games, so I'll stick with Tomb Raider.
I love ear cartilage, and I mean, it's an Uncharted game. Like, you know what you're getting into. Although I will say that this Uncharted game, at least so far, is less shootery.
That's probably the right direction to go.
There's a lot more
traversal
and less shooting, at least in the early parts.
I don't know. I was talking to Josh about it. I've only played maybe 3-4 hours of it, but I feel like they've refined the control scheme to the point where it's like perfect. And a lot of the like parkour wall, jumping off of roofs and stuff, they like nailed it. It's the level design's perfect for it. So as much as you think it's not Tomb Raider, it definitely is. I think the best Uncharted they've made.
Mm-hmm.
And it shows you like this is the fourth one, this is the final one in the series. They spent a lot of time thinking how can we make the best Uncharted game possible. A lot of people complain that Uncharted is basically just a full motion video game with occasionally press X to win, but it's not. There's a lot of things you have to do to play through it, and I do agree that it's less of a shooter than past versions, or I guess Uncharted 2.
I've
Uncharted
barely
2
shot
was
at
very
all
shootery.
so far. I've been just traversing things mostly. Also, it's so the new character models are so good looking that it's almost like disarming. Like the first time I saw Sully, I was like, that doesn't look like Sully. Like that just looks like some other extremely realistic looking man with a mustache. I'm sure if I went back and like looked at them side by side, I'd be like, oh, okay, it's like a higher, fidelity version of the same kind of character. But I don't know, it just throws me off every time I see a new character that I'm supposed to recognize. When I first saw Nate in those trailers, I was like, that doesn't look like Nathan Drake. Anyway, any other games you guys have been playing that you want to discuss real quick before we get to our big topic? Brian.
I've been playing Pocket Card Jockey. I finally bit the bullet on that.
I've got horsey races on my list.
So here's my I don't know if I like that game, but I've been playing it a lot, and this is kind of
that's kind of how it feels to play that game.
Because I don't feel like I'm getting anywhere. I don't feel like I'm making any progress, and honestly, I'm not sure I'm even having that much fun. Yet I can't stop. And to me, I don't think that's a good place to be in. But I'm always just like, well, maybe if I can get past this worthless horse I'm stuck with right now, the next one that comes along, I can do something interesting and exciting with. And now my next question is...
You can just retire a horse early if you really...
I might have to, because the one I've got is just such a bummer. He's got like a cat on his tail, and he's got like a mask, and I'm like, what? Why? This doesn't make any sense. And I don't know. I don't know. It's good, I guess. I want to encourage that kind of weirdness, but man, it is a grind.
I think they ramp you up into races that are way harder than you can handle, because I was like doing pretty well with my horse, with the one that looked red and orange, which I think they tend to make those ones like really fast.
The Rapidash one.
Yeah, the Rapidash look. So I was doing pretty well with him, and I was like, okay, I've got my stats like 80s and 90s, like that's good, that's real good. And then they're like, all right, your next race is this one, and since you've won some, you're going to this race. And I was like, all right. So I go there, and they show me like the lineup of other horses, and the top one had like a speed rating of 150, and I was like, what the hell?
Yeah, it's that sort of like a ramp up into a brick wall difficulty like you see in mobile games, but it's not a mobile game. Like
Well, that's the weird thing. It's modeled in such a way that you're meant to play for a really long time, which makes me think that it's modeled in such a way that you're supposed to be able to buy microtransactions, because that's usually how those things work. But there aren't any, yeah.
Yeah, and even weirder, the in-game shop, like the actual items you can buy with the in-game currency, they just get really expensive for no reason. And so it's like, oh, this costs $30,000. I'm like, okay, I don't have anywhere near that. Like, and I won't have anywhere near that because you keep throwing me into these races I can't win.
You're giving me like 1,000 per win.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna save up 30 wins for that. Yeah, it's weird. And the puzzle piece thing, which I'm still trying to complete an entire puzzle. There's this random people who haven't played. This sounds like we're just talking crazy talk, but there's a random like thing that spits out puzzle pieces, sort of like the Street Pass puzzles, and a lot of times I just get a piece I already have, but it's really expensive to even try for a piece. It's 10,000 just to like take a chance to try to get a piece, and so if I'm paying 10,000, like at least guarantee me that I don't get a repeat. That's the least you could do. But yeah, it's a fun time waster, and I find myself playing at least one hand like every day. I don't know. I can't.
I don't know. It's definitely a time waster. I don't know if I would agree with the first part, but that was my own fault. I should have just gotten the season pass for Hyrule Warriors Legends. Oh well.
Speaking of time wasters, I'm still playing Miitomo. Is that a game? That's not a game.
Yeah, you're not playing that.
It's not anything. Like
you're interacting with it.
Yeah,
well, I don't know. I have a core group of friends, and we're all spread out across the world. So really, the only place we can hang out anymore is Miitomo, and all we do is troll each other. It's fantastic.
The Pokemon Go beta, that'll be the real test of their mobile.
So there's just
although that might not be a game either. Who knows?
some Shaq News trivia for you, Brian. There was an upheaval at one point in the chatty, and another website was created called Stufu.net, and it's basically where all the banned Shackers went. Mm-hmm. Miitomo is worse than Stufu when it comes to some of the content that I see. Like people, there's no censorship. For a Nintendo social network, I'm amazed.
It is super weird. Yeah.
The lack of curation is. I love it because I get hilarious statements and jokes. Like, how you can like have custom greetings when you walk into someone's house. One person came. It was a shacker called Moo, MMMOOO or something, and he comes in. He's like, "Y'all are getting herpes." I was like. Yeah, okay, this is a Nintendo app where that's being said. And that's tame compared to the other stuff that I'm seeing. So I laugh out loud every day at something my friends say in Miitomo. So it's like if people stopped interacting with me, I would maybe stop interacting with it. But then once you get in there, it's like, hey, this guy said this. And you're like, well, now I get to make fun of him about that.
It's leveraging your friend.
I don't know. All I know is that it's a success. There's no way to describe Miitomo as anything but a success. They have 10 million users, which is almost as many as they sold in Wii U units. So
some percentage of those have bought shirts or whatever.
Can you imagine actually paying money in Miitomo? I'm not that crazy, but I enjoy I don't know. Whatever they did with it, I'm enjoying.
The thing that bugs me about Miitomo is somebody pointed this out, and I think this is part of why I stopped, is that if you look at the questions they ask you, it's basically gathering marketing data. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, what is your favorite thing to do? What is your favorite food? What's one word that describes you? It's like, wow. When you look at it this way, it's like, well, no wonder they're not making much, or not trying to put too many microtransactions in this thing. They're going to make their money off of the research, the marketing.
Yeah, so this phrase makes you more likely to buy, less likely to buy?
Yeah, well, Well,
What
I
comes to
joked
mind when you think of Splatoon?
I joked that I thought. Oh, I mean, I'd say it's about 50% of the questions on Miitomo revolve around food. So
Mm-hmm.
I was like, maybe Nintendo's opening a chain of restaurants or
I'd
something.
go.
It's just for it. But yeah, I agree. It is a marketing research tool. But guess what? So is every other social network. It's like
Nintendo, it's a breakfast now.
you're gonna stop tweeting because Twitter's paying attention to that same information. Or you're gonna stop posting on Fudgebook for the same reasons. It's the same thing. In that sense, I think it's genius. The other thing that they're doing that's really smart is that you have people that don't have Nintendo devices that now have Nintendo unified accounts just for Miitomo. But when they do launch NX or whatever the heck else they're doing, you already have an account. So they're getting new users that weren't in their ecosystem before. I think that's really smart. It's
That's kind of what they said before all this mobile stuff started. They, not in those exact words, but looking back at what they said, it was along those lines where they were like, we want to bring people into the Nintendo fold, you know. They kind of stated their intentions flat out, so I guess we shouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I think it's delightful, and I've played it every day since launch.
Delightful, says raves Asif Khan of Shack News.
9 out of 10 game of the year. You know,
Just
come
like
game
dot,
of the year.
dot, dot.
Seriously, come game of the year discussion. I'm gonna be pounding the table on Miitomo.
Oh no.
Well, it's
I
not
will
like
get-
Nintendo's got anything else coming out this year, so this is kind of their
Exactly.
one shot.
Asif aggressively
It's better
pushed
than
for
stuff.
Mario Maker last year, so he's got tenacity.
Yeah, he was
yeah.
right.
All
Yeah,
right,
I mean,
so
really.
it wasn't The Witcher 3 because no one has finished The Witcher 3.
Wait, real quick. We didn't even talk about Snap Map. How cool is that?
I
I
haven't
have not actually
yet.
played that much with SnapMap, so
Talk
I
about
can't speak
SnapMap.
about it very much.
Snap Map it's kind of like Mario Maker for Doom. Sounds awesome to me. I haven't created a level yet. I've just played other people's, and it's really fun. We have a Shacker on the chatty, Whipcracker. He actually works at id, and he's talking about organizing a Shack battle on Snap Map, so that should be exciting.
If it's anything like Mario Maker, you're going to create a level and then just taunt your staff every day about how they have not finished your level.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've given up on anyone on staff trying to beat Briefcase level 5. I mean, it might be
I
the hardest
tried.
level.
I give it a good shot.
At least you went through it. You downloaded the map and you went through it just to see how insane it was.
Yeah. I know what dangers awaited me past the point that I actually made it to. I think I made it like 2/3 of the way through, which is like pretty good.
Yeah, you get to
pretty
that
good.
part where it's a bunch of spikes that spell out Shack News for the second time, and then you die.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
no checkpoints. So back to the beginning with you.
yeah. Oh yeah,
it's-
no. Checkpoints are for losers.
It's gross. It's gross.
This is Trump's America. We don't have checkpoints. But anyway, Snap Map is kind of like Mario Maker for Doom, and I think it's going to be, the multiplayer was something that we were all underwhelmed by, but I think Snap Map might be the redeeming feature when it comes to online play.
That multiplayer is kind of underwhelming, but I will say it does feel like it's better now than it was in the beta. I don't know, maybe it's just me.
No, it is.
It's still not particularly great, but
I feel like it's gotten better. It got better from alpha to beta, and it got better from beta to consumer release. But it's still, for a game like Doom, it's pretty underwhelming, and it's kind of shallow.
yeah.
And if it had a robust multiplayer, I think we could have argued for a 10 out of 10, which would have been a first over at Shack News.
Yep.
So
Probably.
that game's pretty good. Go check it out.
It is.
Anyway, just wanted to give a shout out to Snap Map because I
Yeah.
think it's good.
I'm looking forward to checking it out. I'm probably going to be playing this game for a while, so.
As somebody who really enjoys single-player campaigns and doesn't really get that into multiplayer, I'm totally okay if the single-player and Snap Map are the awesome parts.
Yeah. I mean, multiplayer, that's going to be taken care of next week anyway. Doesn't matter. If I want to play a multiplayer shooter,
this is I mentioned in the big topic, which we should get to because we're running out of time to actually talk about it. This is partly an effort to distract Brian from Overwatch Watch 2016.
It's failing.
Yeah.
You should know, like, as somebody who talks to Brian on a fairly regular basis, listeners, you should know, like, just out of nowhere, probably like 90% of the time, if he changes the subject, it will be towards Overwatch.
Yep.
Yep.
This is not a bit that I'm doing for the show. I'm legitimately. This is a legitimate problem I have.
So, speaking of Overwatch, Overwatch is full of heroes, and we've talked about heroes on a previous show. We've talked about villains on a previous show. This week, we're talking about everyone else, from Cortana to Toad to the Resident Evil shopkeep, who tells you that you've got not enough cash, stranger. Which games have the most memorable supporting characters, and what makes a good supporting cast? Asif, what memorable supporting characters and casts do you have in mind?
Well, you know I have a soft spot in my heart for Slippy Toad, so I have to give him a shout out. Shout out to Slippy. In Gears of War, they had this robot that could hover, and he could also cloak himself, named Jack. I always thought Jack was really cool. You know, it created that mechanic. Guard Jack while he opens the door. You know, that was basically all of Gears right there. Other supporting characters. You know the guy, It's Dangerous to Go Alone, Take This? In Zelda? The old man. The old man is a really good one. Like you had mentioned, Toad. I don't know if Luigi necessarily is, because he's technically a hero himself.
He's a lead. He's a lead.
Yeah.
Co-lead.
Yeah.
I mean, he had a whole year.
From low-key Luigi to low-key Luigi.
Yeah. I would say those are, you know, oddly enough, I skew towards Nintendo, as I always do.
I mean, Nintendo has... I think that's because Nintendo's built up this, you know... It's like these games that were individual games, like Donkey Kong and Mario.
Yeah. I just left out
Diddy
Diddy
Bowser
Kong.
as a villain. Now Bowser's not really a villain per se. He's kind of a villain, but in that like cartoony way. You know,
Now he's dancing with ribbons at the Olympics.
Yeah, like they're all kind of like buddies. Like they hang out on weekends and they play, you know, baseball. So, like it's got this big supporting cast of, you know, playable characters and tertiary characters. Toadsworth, I always really enjoy the Toad with like the little bushy mustache.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Brian, what supporting characters come to mind?
Off the bat, I'm going to say pretty much everybody from Saints Row.
The entire
crew, the entire gang. Yeah, I know that sounds like a cop-out, but they're all pretty much fantastic. I don't know, it's just the one that jumped to mind, and I'm not sure why, is Doc Brown from Punch-Out. Because, one, I love Punch-Out, but what? Did you roll your eyes at me?
Did you? I was thinking, when you said Doc Brown, I was like, from Back to the Future?
That's Doc Lewis, Lord. It's all this 80s flashback crap that people have been doing online with the Ghostbusters and all that. Anyway, Doc Lewis from Punch-Out. Doc Lewis, to me, I think is a character that has a lot of backstory that we never even have an idea of. And that most recent Punch-Out game kind of gave him a lot more personality. I almost want a game that's just about Doc Lewis. Like... Just like
back
what
when
his,
he was a young boxer and
what's his story? What's his deal? Why, you know, like how did he get to where he's at? Like, was there like a big thing that made him stop boxing? Some tragic event, and now he's like Little Max, like the kid that he's, you know, finally coming out of retirement for. I want Creed. Like I want like
$1 million Baby, where like he's
kinda
he's
but I want
and they die tragically.
Well, basically what's Doc Lewis's story? I want to know.
You want a Punch-Out prequel? Yes,
absolutely.
I mean, could we have like Glass Joe and Piston Honda and all them appear in it? Because that would be really cool. Like, leave Lil Mech out of it because he's not around yet. But yeah, if you could bring back like Soda Popinski and all that, I'd be all over that.
You can bring it back to his original name of Vodka Drunkensky. I mean, like. I would be all about a Doc Lewis game, but because and just like the weird stuff, like you're just like, oh, join the Nintendo Fun Club. Like, okay, it's a weird thing.
Yeah. That's a weird thing for my coach to say.
Yeah. Going back to Star Fox because I love that game. At least I used to.
Star Wars. You gotta say Star Wars, right?
Rob 64, where he's like, good luck.
Yeah, he's
I like Rob 64. He's always sending me supplies. Not the original Rob 64. Actually, Rob, the original robot, from Nintendo would be a good one. He was kind of
Robotic
the
operating buddy.
yeah, he was the supporting cast for Gyromite, and he was an actual
That sounds
thing.
right. Yeah.
You remember Gyromite, guys?
I never played Gyromite, but I know of Gyromite.
I had Gyromite, and it was the
boy.
weirdest game ever. But yeah, I keep going back to Nintendo games. There were a lot of, I mean, they're really good at character design there and storytelling, and a lot of that has to go back to having a good supporting cast. Gears is also one. I mentioned the robot in it, but Dom, Baird, Coltrane, those are some great characters. Even if you don't like the story, they just say some funny stuff. Yeah, I don't know.
Beowulf Schaefer from Chatty says he likes Barry Wheeler from Alan Wake because I don't know if this is a because. He doesn't say because, but I'll say it is. He reminded me of Joe Pesci, which I like as like the
Joe
one
Pesci's
thing that he
a
says
great-
about that.
Joe Pesci's a great second banana too.
Yeah, he is,
And
as
you know,
proven by the Lethal Weapon movies.
Goodfellas, another good one.
Yeah.
in the Half-Life series, they have the man with the briefcase. It'd be a shame for me not to mention him as a. I don't know if he's necessarily. Is he a villain? Is he a supporting cast?
He's a I don't know. He's a guide. He
Yeah.
sets you on the right path, right? Like
Yeah, I kind of view some of the guides as, I don't know. Could they fall in this category as well? But yeah,
well, that's part of the monomyth, right? Like there's always the character that like gives you the push out the door in the direction of heroism.
yeah,
That's
yeah, like
that's how this works.
Cranky Kong's like get out of here, like all
Yeah.
that stuff.
Cranky
Yeah.
Kong is the original Donkey Kong too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll say Mass Effect is so full of playable characters that like most of the really memorable characters are playable. But I will say that was it Jack? Not Jack the girl. What was Seth Green's character's name?
Joker.
Joker. That's it. Joker was like a pretty memorable character, and Seth Green like actually like did a pretty good job with that guy. I think of him as this kind of goofball actor, so it's hard to think of him like in a serious role. But when it came to like moments that he had to be serious for a minute, he actually did a good job. And of course, I always think of Nintendo games. The whole before they made her playable in Smash Brothers, Sheik as the classic Ocarina of Time character that was like, man, she's fucking rad. Zelda became a ninja while I was asleep.
I'm really shocked. I'm shocked that you guys haven't mentioned this game yet. Seeing that you guys are huge fans of the series, but Mega Man
Proto Man?
Yeah, I mean, think about all the supporting cast in Mega Man throughout the years.
Yeah.
Well, they made most of them playable eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, but
Yeah.
at least at some point they were just there, and
Yeah,
they were
the
his
first-
buddy.
The first time I saw Zero, and in the first Mega Man X game, when you just lose terribly to, it was one of those you lose on purpose, like they make you lose. When you lose terribly to that Boba Fett ripoff, and then Zero just comes and like slices his arm off.
His
in, like,
name
a
is
single
Vile,
stroke.
Stephen.
It's what?
His name is Vile, Stephen.
Yes, I know.
We were talking
Boba
about
Fett. They gave him Boba Fett.
we're talking about how
Exactly
Bowser.
like him.
How Bowser is an enemy and a friend at the same time. And we had mentioned, sometimes they go play baseball. I loved that baseball game on Cube. I would buy a redesigned Mario sports baseball game.
Well, they put out the Wii version of that on the Virtual Console.
Yeah, but that's the Wii version. I don't
It's still
want
pretty
that.
good.
No waggle. I just want.
I mean,
to
I
push the
agree
button,
with you. I agree with you that we need a new Mario baseball like now, but
right?
And here's a weird one that
it's
comes
not
to mind.
completely forgotten.
While we're speaking about Nintendo games, and I swear I'll wrap this up soon, but while we're speaking about Nintendo games, here's like a weird one that comes to mind, but I just kind of want to raise it. Dr. Kawashima? Was that how you...
Oh.
Like, he wasn't a playable character, and without him, you could still have that game. It would just be like a bunch of exercises. But he like gave it context. This weird, like, polygonal version of this old Japanese doctor gave it like context and a personality that it didn't kind of have otherwise, So that was kind of an interesting framing device for that I'm talking about brain age. Yeah, I'm talking about brain age. By the way,
brain training.
Then they did those weird ones where he turned into like a devil. I don't know if that's
No, I think that was there from the beginning. Like if you.
No, that was like a sequel. I think.
Oh, really?
Did you guys? Wasn't the original.
Did you guys ever play Flash Focus?
No, I played Brain Age a lot, but not Flash Focus.
Flash Focus was basically Brain Age, but for vision training, and it was really cool. It was like trying to train your eyes to stay younger. I love that whole concept, that your brain was a certain age, and if you worked out, you could get it to be younger. Or
I mean, that was them starting to lean into this, like our services as medical devices in a way. They've kind of dropped since then.
I don't know if they dropped it or if it's just something that they were like, well, we're done for now. When we have more to do, we'll come back and do it. It's not like it's gone forever, but yeah, why isn't there should have been more Brain Age. There should have been more Flash Focus.
Maybe we'll bring it back on the NX. Oh, wait. One more Nintendo mention. There's the Nintendo cast of characters, which includes Wario, but WarioWare has its own like weird cast of characters.
Yeah.
That are never seen in Nintendo proper. Like you never see like 9-Volt or like Ashley the goth witch girl is standing there with the Mario characters. But they apparently exist in this universe, and they're great. They're fun little characters. Yeah.
The whole series is just fantastic.
Yeah. So all right, we can move on to a quick bit of newsy bits here, right after our sponsors. Brian.
That's right, Steve. Our sponsors, as always, Audible.com. Guess what, Chattycast listeners? They're offering you a free audiobook download and a free 30-day trial to check out that Audible.com service. And oh boy, is it a great service. Lots of great books. There's books on games. There's books on technology, history, romance, whatever it is you're into. There's like 150,000 of them, and they're adding more every day. So go get your free trial and your free audiobook download by going to audibletrial.com/chattycast. That's audibletrial.com/chattycast. Thank you so much, Audible.
Yay.
Yep. So at one point in that, you sounded very salesman-y. I was impressed again by your radio skills.
It's a gift. What can I say?
Yeah. So I'm going to hit on these pretty quickly. The next Destiny expansion might have been leaked. It may be called Rise of Iron. I don't know what that means. I'm not versed enough in Destiny lore.
No one is. I mean, I hope there's more Grimoire cards that come with this.
Yeah, we need to read more about that story.
We'll have people read Grimoire cards and then tell us about this. Destiny's great. I'm done with it.
I feel okay about like the cycle of content they're on now. I know they want me to just stay engaged forever and play every day, but that's never what I'm gonna do. But I'm kind of okay with this, like, hey, every few months we're gonna release a thing and then you come back and play it. I'm like, okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah. No, I saw the response in the chatty was pretty positive to it because people love grinding in Destiny, and they get bored because at some point you do the same raid over and over again. You want something else, so it's good. I just feel like every time they announce a DLC, it pushes Destiny 2 a little bit further away from us.
I mean, the other positive thing about these releases is every time you lapse for a few months, they speed up the progression. So when you come back, you're like, wow, I'm leveling up really fast.
Yeah.
It's really convenient that way.
I'm kind of excited. I might go back in if as long as it's not gonna be like a $40 expansion. I might jump in and play this.
It might be because they're not having a proper.
Then I don't know about that because I don't know if I want.
I mean, I don't. This isn't like me speaking from inside knowledge or anything, to be clear. But like, if they're not releasing a full Destiny 2, I would imagine they want to wring out every dime they can from these expansions. But who knows? Maybe it's not. So, next newsy bit, and I'll just actually make this the last newsy bit. The Nintendo CEO says the NX is not a successor to neither the Wii U nor to the 3DS.
He also said that it's going to introduce a new way to play that we haven't seen before.
So it's not going to be the 3DS, but with your TV screen as one of the screens, and you've got another screen in your hands. That's good to know.
No. That would be dumb, and that's also no. It's the biggest problem they faced with the Wii U was that you had to split the processing power across two screens, and that's why the Wii U gamepad isn't running at 1080p. So then you have one screen running at 720p, another one running at 1080p. It split the GPU process. Hopefully, what they do is they put a system on a chip and a GPU in the handheld device itself, along with one in the console, so that when you're at home, you have a more robust experience, but you can take it portably with you.
I mean, this raises my curiosity about what it is. We're not going to find out for a while because they said they're not going to have it at E3. But this raises my curiosity, but at the same time, I'm like, well, this is also probably just kind of a messaging thing to say, like, hey, we know the Wii U was kind of a flop. Like, this isn't going to be a success for that thing. It's sort of like distancing this new thing from their old thing, you know?
He was pretty vocal during the Wii U development cycle that it would fail and that the name was a bad idea, making it a incremental bump from the Wii was a bad idea. I think a lot of why he's CEO has to do with the fact that he didn't think Wii U was a good idea. So I think that Nintendo, having licked their wounds from a failed, I'm not saying the console's bad, but financially it was a failure. They can't release another failure. So I feel like they've been working on something really cool for a while. I imagine it's going to be an augmented reality device where it's going to have a stereoscopic camera on the handheld, and you're going to be able to take it, look around, and like what they're doing with Pokemon Go and that Ingress style thing where you're going around looking for Pokeballs.
They even experimented with cards on the 3DS for AR stuff.
Yeah. And I mean, there was also Face Raiders, which is still one of the more fun free games on there. I just think that augmented reality, like we're looking at what are we now? We're almost 2 months into the VR consumer launch, and I was just doing some research on Steam. They may have sold about 50,000 Vives so far, and Oculus seems to be around that same amount. VR is not going to be some massive thing. I've said that multiple times on this show. But AR, augmented reality, could be huge. And it would be very Nintendo of them to have figured out something that would appeal to kids. You know, because if you can make the real world appear cooler than it is, that could be big. Yeah. And I think that in a world where parents don't want their kids strapping goggles to their eyes, I think coming up with a friendlier version of that. You know, because what they did with the 3DS was innovative, having glasses-free 3D on a handheld, that no one else had done that. So I feel like they have something innovative coming to the market. I was talking to someone last night about it, and they're like, you know what? Nintendo doesn't really make bad handhelds. And if this is a handheld device, that's a hybrid with console, I don't foresee it being, like, horrible.
They don't make bad handhelds, but the 3DS... I mean, we've got to wrap this up because we have to move on to the game. But the 3DS the 3D conceit of it sort of didn't really go anywhere. So when you remove that, it's like a more powerful DS. And it's like, well, that's cool. Like, that's a good... True. I like having a more powerful DS, but it's also not as innovative as they usually are.
You're right. It was incremental. But for the most part, I hated the 3D feature on the 3DS. But Super Mario 3D Land probably used it better than anything ever. I mean,
they always have that one game that's like the test case, like Mario Maker for Wii U, where it's like, oh, okay.
Yep. Here's why we built this. It's like every once in a while, Miyamoto and his crew, they have a game that they're working on. They're like, hey, we need this input device to do this. So you got to wonder if they have something in the augmented reality space that required the NX to be able to do it.
Yeah, maybe.
I think that's the most likely thing.
And I'm going to try not to let my faith get shaken by Miyamoto thinking that Star Fox was going to be the proof case for the Wii U.
I think you left out one bit of Nintendo news, just to hit on it real quick. They also announced that they're getting into making motion pictures, and I think that's just huge for them. And I like the direction of the company. These are things that were obvious, getting into mobile and getting into motion pictures, and they're doing both of them.
I saw someone react with, that Mario could never work as a motion picture. And it's like, are you insane? Like, look at a Pixar movie. Like, it would just be an animated movie. You've got this like wacky cast of, really colorful characters that are sort of like friendly with each other.
We had talked,
Whatever.
I think, a couple weeks ago when we were talking about Overwatch about how Blizzard has some of the best artists in the world. So does Nintendo, and some of the best characters. I think a Legend of Zelda movie would be huge.
Yeah,
But
it would really
yeah,
depend on
I
finding the
would.
right director and getting the right budget for it. But yeah,
I think that could be an epic movie. I think yes, Mario, and then you're talking about like what they did with Marvel and the Avengers. You could have all these Nintendo movies spring up and then lead it up to a Smash Brothers movie. I mean that. I'm just saying, like this
that
could
would be pretty
be.
fun.
You're talking about these are movies, like whatever Civil War. It's already made $1 billion in sales. You have a company that's struggling. It makes perfect sense for Nintendo to move in this direction, and if they can do it in-house as opposed to outsourcing it, they'll make a ton of money off of it.
Yeah.
And they're kind of a natural fit for this whole shared universe thing that every studio wants to do now.
Yeah.
So
they already have it. They've already got a shared universe.
it's a lot more natural than
It's
say
called the
like,
Mushroom Kingdom.
Yeah, well, exactly. And it's a more natural fit than some of the other things they're trying to shove into having a shared universe now, so that's good.
Real quick, still an argument we had on TeamSpeak a couple days ago. Toad's head. Is he wearing a hat that's a mushroom, or is his head a mushroom?
This is a debate that could go. Yeah, we talked about this.
So I read a thing on this actually.
I think you supplied me with the thing that I supplied to Slack.
It was a thread on NeoGAF, and there is if you play Mario Strikers, and you absolutely should play Mario Strikers. You can Toad wears a helmet, and the helmet is notably smaller than his regular head.
You're right.
My inclination would be that the hat is a ceremonial headpiece, and that he can take it off when he wants to play soccer.
But when you see him without it, it just looks so weird.
Well, yeah, and if you go back to like the old Mario cartoon, there was a shot where he actually took the hat off, so he just has like this weird little bald head. So,
you're right.
But what of Captain Toad? What of Captain Toad?
He straps the light around his hat. Yeah. I don't know what's so complicated about it.
Whatever. Let's move on to the game.
Okay, just buy that game. Everyone out there who
Captain
has
Toad
a
is great.
review, get Captain Toad. Okay,
it's a great game.
Somebody, when they reviewed Mario 3D World, said, "Wow, this Captain Toad thing could be a standalone game." Anyway, all right. So it's time for Beat the Doc, part of the game where I abuse my hosting powers by pitting my friends against each other. Today's game is called Name That Chiptune. I'm going to play a classic piece of 8-bit gaming music. You just have to name the game it's from. Plus, bonus point, buzz in obviously, say your name. Plus you get a bonus point if you can name the name of the song or stage that it's featured in. Usually those are the same thing, but not always. So, for example, if I played this YouTube ad, for example, that I'm going to skip in a second. All right. If I played this.
Amateur hour. Oh, that's E1M1 from Doom. That's E1M1 from Doom.
That's E1M1 from Doom. Yes. So I knew you would get that one.
At the Gates of Doom, I think, is what it's called.
I was like so giddy when I found that Doom plushie. It's in the first level, and I saw that.
Yeah.
Played EMM1, and I was like, yeah.
So that's not an actual 4 points. That was for an example because I knew you both would know it like immediately.
I think I said it last week, but that is one of my favorite pieces of video game music ever.
Yeah, that's why I used it as the example. But okay, now we're going to start it for reals, and hopefully we don't get another YouTube ad. But here we go. Number 1.
Yo, I got this.
All right, I think Brian said ooh ooh first.
Yeah. Ooh, Mr. Watts, Mr. Watts.
What is that?
That's from Super Mario Bros. 2 or Doki Doki Panic. And it is it's World 2. It's the Desert World. I can't remember which world specifically.
The name that is on it is Cave Theme. Cave Theme. But that's still a point. So
that's right, Desert Cave. So yeah, I got it wrong. Sorry. I should have 1 point for that.
Yeah, you better be. All right. So number 2.
Because it plays in other caves too.
By the way, David was going to be our panelist. I don't know what knowledge he has of 8-bit things. I was trying to target it so it'd be a fair game between those two. So it might not be actually, properly balanced between you two. I have no idea. All right, number 2.
Yo, that's DuckTales Moon.
That is DuckTales Moon. Oh, 2 points. That is
Another
one
one
of my
of the
favorite
finest
pieces
pieces of
game
video
music,
game music ever
I think,
made.
ever. Yeah.
That's such a good game.
I just kind of want to listen to that. Well, maybe we'll go out on that one.
Yeah.
All right. Number 3.
Oh, got it. It's Mega Man 2 Heat Man, right?
No, I'm sorry. Asif, do you want to take a guess?
I'm gonna be so angry at myself because I know.
Wait,
Brian just gave you an enormous hint, but
Mega Man?
which one?
I'm angry at myself.
It's 8-bit. It's 8-bit.
They're all 8-bit. I didn't use any 16-bit ones.
3?
Mega Man 3. Yes, it is Mega Man
Yes!
3.
I don't know the name of the song, though.
That is Snake Man's theme.
That was my second guess too.
Snake Man. All right. A lot of the Mega Man music sounds very similar.
Yeah,
It's kind of hard to-
I'm hearing Heat Man's music in my head now, and it is nowhere near the same. I'm an idiot.
Next one. Oh, these are getting harder.
I know this, but I don't know it. I know I've heard it before, but I can't place it.
Feel free to say, like, I give up.
Is it Wrecking Crew?
Asif?
Is it Wrecking Crew?
No, it's not Wrecking Crew. Brian, do you have a guess before we call it?
No, I was gonna say Contra, but that's not Contra.
No, well, you're close. It's Super C.
Oh.
C. Yeah, Super Contra.
I know I heard it, but I
the
couldn't
song,
place it.
no one was going to get the song name. The song is actually called Tropics of Torture.
Yeah.
No one was ever going to get that. All right, so next one. Nothing?
Sounds really familiar, but no, I got nothing.
All right. In an effort to move things along, I'll stop it. You're both calling, I assume. That is Maniac Mansion. Dave's theme.
Oh man, I should have had that.
Dave's theme. All right. But it's the NES Maniac Mansion. It's not like it's the PC.
That's what it was. I put that on PC.
Because these are all 8-bit. All right. Final one.
Is that Akari Warriors?
That is Akari Warriors.
Yeah. Wow.
Wow,
Good
you pulled
job.
out the farthest one. Good job. I feel like I should give you a bonus point just for that. Can you name? Can you by any chance name the name of the song
title?
It's a very generic name. It's Stage Theme 2. It's very,
Yeah, duh.
the most generic you can possibly be. But yeah. So Brian technically got more points, but to be fair, I
think you
DuckTales
should get
in
an
there.
extra point for getting Akari. That was tough.
I got some 8-bit street cred there right at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind
Minus
of put
points.
DuckTales in there,
I
figuring it would
almost
be.
feel like I should lose for getting the Mega Man one wrong.
You should.
ashamed.
Yeah, that should be
Yeah.
negative points.
You know what,
I mean-
Asif, you win. I cannot, in good conscience.
Yeah, I mean, I put DuckTales in there
sounds-
thinking that it would be like a very quick match between you and David, because I know David knows old school. But yeah, you buzzed in incredibly fast and knew the exact name of the song, so I feel like I kind of gave you an unfair advantage there. But it's such a good song, I had to include it. Like, what are the best
That whole
8-bit
soundtrack's
songs?
great, but yeah, that's
But,
definitely part.
I
that's
mean,
part.
you didn't include any Tecmo Bowl game or any Tecmo
I
Bowl
did.
music.
Well, I didn't
That's
play
minus
technical
points.
games
Oh, dude,
when I was a
Brian,
kid. So
do you play Tecmo Bowl or Tecmo Super Bowl?
I played it a little bit, but not very much.
Some of the most iconic music in
this
8-bit.
is a missing part of my childhood that you've experienced. So
Punch Out, also really good
Yep.
music.
Punch Out, yeah.
down, down,
Yeah.
down,
And then I guess technically this is an 8-bit, but F-Zero had some great music. I still
I'll
listen to
do
that.
name that chip tune 16-bit version sometime.
Sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I would be all over that. And yeah, we were talking about how much we love E1 M1. I love the Duke theme. It might be the best theme song for anything.
I don't
I
actually
even
remember
tried to
the
recreate
Duke
it
theme.
for a
What
Chattycast theme.
what
It was ridiculous.
what is the Duke theme? I don't actually remember. Is it?
Dun-na-na, 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 dun-na-na.
That sounds vaguely familiar. I'm sure I would recognize it. It's been years and
I
years
was
since I've
I was
actually played.
definitely more of a I was definitely more of a Doom guy than a Duke guy, so I don't really remember the
Yeah,
music.
there was a whole thread about that Doom. It was like, there was that argument Prince versus Michael Jackson back in the day, and Prince
Yeah.
won. Everyone's like, well, Doom with this latest entry has won because Duke couldn't even get their act together to release Forever.
Maybe Duke will like look at this version of Doom and be like, "Oh," and then they'll
Yeah.
like release a good one.
No,
You know?
I don't know. I think that Gearbox is looking at what Bethesda is doing with the Doom series and what they did with Wolfenstein,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, maybe we could do something with Duke. Because Duke was such a story-driven game. Like, yes, it had good multiplayer, but that era was when single-player first-person shooters were, I don't know. I think they were better designed than 80% of the ones that come out today.
Yeah. Except for the modern Doom, which has very good level design. I have to say.
Mm-hmm.
It's so good. I kind of want to go back and play it, but I have other things to do. So, all right, we're gonna wrap up the show. Plugs. Asif, do you have anything coming up that you want to talk about?
Yeah, sure. I plugged it last time I was on the show. I'll do it again. I'm going to Michigan on Sunday to start preparations for this party that we're throwing on the 29th. It's called No Party Like a Detroit Party. $5 per ticket is going to local charities. One is the Flint Water Fund. One is the Detroit Public School Foundation, and the other one is the venue, Bird's Warehouse. They have something called Feeding the Homeless. So one is for feeding homeless in Detroit, one is for the public schools in Detroit, and one is for the Flint Water Fund.
You're a good person. You're actually like putting your
Yeah.
skills to use for like a good reason.
Yeah.
And,
on behalf of the glorious Mother State, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. And we got featured in an article on Magnetic Magazine a couple days ago that highlighted the fact that we were doing charitable efforts. The other thing that we're doing at the event is it's free water, which if you've ever gone to a nightclub, they charge absurd prices for water, and it's like $6 a bottle or something. So to our gesture to people attending the event is, hey, we don't want you to die from dehydration. Yeah, it's Speedy J, Octave One, John Aquaviva, Doc Martin, a bunch of other awesome people on the lineup. And so if you're into techno and you're in Michigan for the Movement Festival, which is the largest technical festival in North America every year, go to that. It'd be really cool. And so I'm going to be kind of focused on Army of Techno in the next week or so. But yeah, I'm excited about that. And then the usual Do Mercury, $5 a month.
Shack Facts.
Service.
We have a booth.
Josh is really killing it on Shack Facts this week with the Fallout DLC guides and also
Doom, and Uncharted.
all that Doom content is really starting to roll out from us. And David's review, if you haven't read David's review, read it. It
was really good. It was. I mean, like I like to think I'm proud of all the content we put out, but like when a piece of content stands out, and I sound so like suit and tie saying content, but like I complimented David personally on that review because I was like, this reads really well, and you get your points across really well. So definitely go read that.
It kind of speaks for everyone at Shack News, and I think that's where he nailed it. Like he understood exactly what was so good about that game, and its minor shortcomings, but I'm going to be trying to play more of that game this weekend before I leave. I
think we all will. I'm going to plug again. I mentioned this just a second ago, but I'll actually talk about it now. We have a booth at E3 this year, so I'm currently making appointments. That's like sort of like my full-time job now, is making appointments for both the booth and for all of our staff members at E3. So if you are like a developer and you are a shacker, then you automatically have an advantage because we like to pat our own on the back. And so get in touch with me through whatever social channels you can find me through. Yeah, I've got some things going up, but I'm not sure when I can talk about them yet, so I'll just keep my mouth shut and not mess it up. So Brian.
Yeah, I actually do have something to plug this week.
Woo.
Two things. One, go see the movie The Nice Guys. It's pretty good. Two, it's just like my plugs are just like, go see this movie.
You weren't actually involved with your plugs.
No, I have nothing to do with it. I'm making no money off it, but it's a good movie. You should go see it. But I actually am going to be on a podcast, a different podcast. Now, it's not. We're not breaking
He's
up.
cheating on us.
Mom and Dad. It's nothing.
Burn the witch. Sorry.
Actually, I've been invited to be on a friend of the show, Phil Hornshaw's podcast with the other friend of the show, Nick Hurwich, about time travel called Paradox. They wanted me on to talk about the X-Men movie timelines and how completely screwed up they are. So I'll be doing that. I think recording it Monday. Should be out sometime next week. I don't know when exactly, but if it's out before the Chattycast, just search for Paradox Podcast on iTunes. Otherwise, I'll remind you again next week.
I like how both in this and what was the other podcast you appeared on? It was for your university psych department. It seems like people just the people who know you just pull you for podcasts when they're like, we need some nerdy comic shit. Like,
yeah. Listen, I got a brand. Okay, I'm all right with it. I'm all right with the brand.
Yeah, they know what to come to you for.
See, I have some. I'm gonna make a leak here, just because I finally can. We bought a website last year at Shack News.
Oh, is this the venue?
I'm going to make the announcement here, and then I'm going to make a thread about it shortly after. Maybe I should make
where no one will know about it.
Yeah, I want to make an important announcement on the Chattycast for our loyal viewers and our loyal listeners. Shack News acquired Modojo.com. It's a mobile gaming site dedicated to iPhone, Android, iPad, 3DS, Vita, anything mobile. And Brittany Vincent, who's been writing for Shack News, she's editor-in-chief over there. Really excited to have her on board. Mm-hmm. And yes, we'll make a formal announcement later. But
so Modojo I guess kind of has for a while been unofficially, like under the Shack News banner. So she's writing for us. When we get things that are mobile, we can see if she would like it. So we're going to be sort of sharing content in that way. But she's actually been really helpful around Shack News as well. So she's been awesome.
Yeah. No, I mean, Brittany's kind of like, we brought her onto the team almost a year ago, but we were in the period of transition from the previous hosting to this hosting and previous design to our design. So we couldn't really say anything about it. And we never really, when we brought on those freelancers, we formally welcomed all of them, Cassidy, David, and John.
And we still have not formally welcomed.
We never kind of did that for Brittany, and it was her birthday on Wednesday. So I'm really excited for Brittany to have her officially on board as editor-in-chief of Modojo. We welcome everyone to our Gamer Hub Content Network family, and that's big news. Really happy about it, and I'll be creating some content for Modojo too, because apparently over there they like Mitomo.
Yeah, you can write so many essays on Mitomo.
You can go over there and be happy.
I'm gonna just literally have a daily Mitomo stream where I just stream my Mitomo on Modojo. But yeah, we're excited. I think I should probably do a front page article about that, Steve.
Yeah, you probably should. Maybe we should get started on that, especially since this is a live show. Someone could technically see it. Cool. All right, so that's the show. We'll be back next week. I'm sure Brian's gonna make us do Overwatch.
No, it's about Overwatch. There's no. I'm sure it's about Overwatch. So
it's gonna be about Overwatch.
Talk about Overwatch.
We will talk about Overwatch next week. So until then, for Asif Khan, I'm Steve Watts.
I am Brian Carr.
And we'll see you on Chatty.
Overwatch.